What did someone on a date do that made you think I didn't think someone like this could even exist outside of movies? My friend just got back from the worst date ever. The girl showed up to the restaurant, decided to get barefoot. She went into the bathroom barefoot. The topics of conversation included how clothes are pointless and how she wants to live a hippie lifestyle and doesn't believe in toilet paper. Oh yes, this was off Tinder. I had a guy show up to a coffee date in a full 3-piece suit and top hat once. He even had a pocket watch. He said he felt he was born in the wrong era and identified with a more elegant time. When I asked questions about things like lifestyle preferences and dating, he was insistent that his intentions were genuine and he was always a perfect gentleman who liked to go about courting the old-fashioned way. He didn't actually answer any of my questions. He forgot my name twice, so he guessed. I paid for my own coffee and very politely declined his offer to escort me to my next destination. Yes, it was Tinder, and his bio was shockingly normal. I found someone back in the days of Match.com in SF, when it was new. She was incredibly perfect and sweet. She ran into me when she was out another night when I was playing a show and I sang directly to her. She danced up to the stage like something out of a rom-com. She was sweet and adorable and funny and sexy. I didn't see her after the show but messaged her. Turns out she was married with 3 kids. In a slightly more positive way, I had an incredibly dazzling date with a lady who kept using these small mannerisms that really got me going. Her eyes crinkled when she smiled. She held her pinky out. She slightly covered her mouth when she laughed. It felt like I was in a Disney movie. I dated a girl who confessed her love and proposed during our second date. Thought that's funny until few months later, she secretly moved. She was living 100 kilometers away. Now she lives on my street, 1 block down from my place. Not funny. I arrived at a girl's house to pick her up. This was about 10 years ago. Her mother is on the couch smoking a huge bong, with her 2-year-old on her lap. The mother and her start arguing about whose weed she is smoking. On the date she proceeds to get about 5 calls from her mom asking where is her weed. This didn't happen to me, but to one of my friends. On their 3rd date, he got some red flags from this girl. Stuff like conspiracies, talking about her past relationships at it. Nothing too crazy though. He had decided to break things off and tells her that he doesn't think they should see each other anymore. He feeds her the usual polite stuff that normal people handle well. I mean, it was only 3 dates. Later that night, his phone blows up with texts, and this girl is screaming about how much she loves him, and how could he do this, because she has abandonment issues. She ended this tirade by sending him photos of her bloody feet and all her toenails, which she had ripped off, and then she blocked him. We are all very glad she lives in a different province now. The guy tried to trip the waitress twice. I met a really cute blonde. During the date she told me how she was married 3 months earlier, but her husband of only a few hours caught her banging the best man at the wedding reception. I ran so fast it could have been a clip of the Roadrunner. It wasn't really a date, but I went out for tacos and beers with a girl who psychoanalyzed me to my face. This included pointing out unconscious gestures and mannerisms while I was doing it. Sorry lady, I'm leaning forward with my shoulders hunched forward because I can barely hear you speak, not because I'm introverted. Went on a 2nd date with a dreamboat. Everything was going really well when the most beautiful woman I have ever seen enters the bar. The whole place is staring at her, and I'm a little shocked when my date turns and waves her over. She sits down and introduces herself. She's my date's ex. She lives right around the corner, and he had let her know that we would be there if she wanted to stop by. They both proceeded to catch up and thoroughly ignore me. I pretended to go out for a smoke and just left. Well, we had been dating about 2 months and I invited him to go to a Willie Nelson concert with me. I'm a huge fan and I'd never seen him play live before. This guy, who is a scummy used car salesman, I know, suddenly asked if we could stop off in a different city so he could run a car title or something to one of his associates. It was a 3-hour detour from the concert. He also took a call from his ex-wife at some point and had an argument with her in front of me. Yep. When we finally got there, I only got to watch the last 2 songs of one of my all-time favorite artists because of him. Well, this was at a casino. So we thought that we might as well play a little, since we missed the whole fking show. The dude didn't tell me that he had a gambling problem and had previously signed something that barred himself from all casinos in the state. First he disappeared, then I started getting texts from him about how he was such a loser and had lost all his money. Then, after I had to come find him, he had me pretend that I won something on his machine because he wasn't supposed to be gambling. Then he tried to make me sign up for some birthday promotion so he could get $10 more to play. Awkward. We stayed the night because it was 2 AM and I had been throwing back Crown and Cokes while telling him how he was for calling his ex in front of me. On the way back home the next morning, on about a 4-hour drive, he had to stop at every fking casino, at least 3, to try to get his money back. It was like Fear and Loathing in Oklahoma. I was hungover on street Patrick's Day stopping at every Native American casinos along the highway full of people wearing green beads and chasing luck. I had to ride back with him, so I was not happy or pleasant to be around. The only happy ending to this is that Willie Nelson never stopped stirring, and I finally got to see him with my mom about 2 years after this. She asked the Uber driver for his number. Not very exciting, but I couldn't believe it actually happened. First date. The bar was closing, and he got a bit bashful, hands in his pockets, nervously asked, do you think you want to hang out a bit longer? And then we watched some Battlestar Galactica 4 years later and still happy. Casually met up with a guy and his friends while they were tailgating a football game. We were playing a game of cornhole, beanbag toss game for those not from the south, and the guy told me to fetch the bags for the next game. Didn't like being told, but was going to just do it. As I turned to gather them, he proceeds to slap my ass and say something along the lines of good girl. WTF. He does this in front of his friends and I hear chuckles. This was only our second meetup, so I still didn't really know him. Funny enough, I really wasn't attracted to him, but I gave him a chance because we had mutual family friends who kept telling me how nice he was. After that, I made some see-through excuse and left. I then proceed to ignore his sporadic texts for the next several months. I generally think people deserve more respect than being ghosted, but I made an exception for him. This happened to my friend. His roommate's sister asked him out. He takes her to Red Lobster. They order an appetizer. After some chit chat, my buddy heads to the bathroom. When he gets back, he sees that the appetizer came, and his date had eaten all of it while he was peeing. No worry. They order the main course. She eats hers incredibly fast, then starts picking at his. This grossed him out, so he kinda lets her finish his entree. They order dessert. While they are waiting for dessert, my buddy witnesses a younger girl head towards the bathroom. A slimy older man who had been hanging around walked to the bathroom and went into the girl's restroom door. My buddy springs into action, runs to the bathroom, kicks the guy out of the bathroom and the restaurant, and then spends a few minutes explaining to the staff what had happened. He sits back down and him and his date are talking for quite a while when he notices that dessert hasn't come yet. He keeps trying to flag down his waitress, but she's kind of ignoring him. Finally, he walks over to her and asks when the dessert is coming. The waitress tells him, I delivered both desserts to your table a while ago, and your date ate both of them while you were dealing with that guy in the bathroom. TLDR, my buddy's date ate the entire appetizer, most of his entree, and both desserts. She believed that the Illuminati or Freemasons planned the street layout of Washington, D.C., so it has an inverted pentagram, and made it so that the Patriots scored exactly 33 points in the Super Bowl, because apparently the number 33 is really important to them. She then wanted to know when I was born to the nearest minute, so she could figure out astrology stuff about me. He showed up in a red, belled sleeve silk shirt and big bell white pants. The shirt was open several buttons too many, and he was wearing at least 3 big gold chains. This was in 1995, so he was about 15 years too late for this look. He looked at Disco Refugee. The conversation was fun. He wasn't boring, but he didn't seem to be a good personality fit for me. He seemed to be a good guy, and I hoped he found his disco lady out there somewhere. I met a man at a bar, and for the second time in my life I worked up the courage to hand him my number as my friends and I left. A few days later he messages me and we start chatting and agree to go on a date later in the week. I received a FB friend request from a woman that I didn't know, but her profile indicated that the guy was a mutual friend of ours. I then received a message from the mysterious woman, basically saying she was his girlfriend and I needed to cut contact with him. Turns out he had broken up with her a couple of days before we met each other at the bar, and she didn't want the relationship to end. I spoke with him about it, and he assured me that he was single, and I believed him. Decided to go on the date. Date night comes, and I'm nervous. He's very sweet, calm. We had a great dinner and a couple of drinks, talked for a couple of hours. The restaurant we had chosen was busy that night, but we weren't bothered by the people squeezing by our small table while we ate. We are laughing, agree that we want to keep the night going, and decide we are going to go to a local barcade. As we're leaving, I'm talking about something, and I notice his demeanor change from jovial to reserved. I asked him what was wrong when we got outside, and he told me I needed to leave. He had spotted his ex at the bar as we were walking out. I left quickly. What was a nice night was suddenly cold and awkward and felt wrong. Turns out his ex had logged into his FB account and read our messages about where we were going for our date, followed us there, and watched us for God knows how long. This man and I had a sweet bond, and I have a stubborn streak. I refused to allow someone else to dictate whom I was going to date, especially after she started getting weird. For the next 4 months, we would experience stalking, threats, harassment, etc. Accessed his Apple account and had my number blocked multiple times. She called and texted me hundreds of times, sometimes in one night, and would use a different number every time I blocked a new one. I eventually had to get my number changed. She peed on and keyed my car and followed me to the bar where he worked, threatening to attack me. I had to be escorted to my car by police that night. She posted my contact info and picture to Reddit. She had her friends reach out to me, trying to contact me by any means possible. Eventually, she claimed that my, at the time, boyfriend had hit her, and he spent a weekend in jail for the accusation. I tried, twice, to get restraining orders for myself against her, both of which were denied by the judge, because she hadn't actually attacked me. It was insane. It felt like it wasn't real, and her tenacity in making our lives hell was incredible.